Thank you so much. Welcome to NDPHC.
Thank you.
Mr. John Osadola and your team. Thank you, GM, my media team. My name is Engineer Jennifer Adighije. You might know I'm an electronics engineer. I was appointed by Mr. President on the 19th of August 2024. I resumed on the 26th of August 2024. And my background cuts across very richly, across the private and public sector. So I started my career in PHCN, which is now TCN, Apo Transmission Substation, where I was a transmission engineer. And then I moved on to the private sector, where I worked as a systems engineer, networks engineer in Globalcom in the telecom sector. And then I came back to the public sector in CBN after a couple of years, where I was in the procurement department of the CBN. And I'm sure if you know the CBN, you will know that we lay emphasis on the core principles of corporate governance, which is why I derive most of my corporate ethics from. I rely greatly on the core principles of corporate governance, which is accountability, transparency, and responsibility. So which has led me to imbibe the culture and habit of following due process, which I have brought to the NDPHC, which is now cascading down in the organization. And so, having demonstrated these qualities, I'm able to lead by example, and I'm able to build a team that demonstrates the highest level of corporate ethics, and that's the organization that we're building under my leadership. Okay, thank you very much. With regards to vision, myself and my team of executives, we made it very clear from day one. We made it clear in the sense that we communicated the vision very clearly to the staff of the organization. And that's simply because, we don't just want the staff to be partakers of the success. We want them to actively participate in the success story of the organization. So the vision is built around optimization, which is anchored on 3 pillars. Pillar 1 would be optimizing the performance of our assets so that we can enhance our revenue. And then pillar 2 would be optimizing our processes so that we can enhance our efficiency across the organization. And then pillar 3 would be leveraging human capital and technology to sustain transformation over time. So those are the 3 core strategic goals of the team, which we have communicated across all the departments in the organizations and then in the organization, and we have come up with strategies to ensure that the corporate vision is achieved individually and collectively across the organization. Communications is very key in attaining any vision, and because we communicated the vision alongside the goals and the objectives, and of course it aligns with also the aspirations of the staff of the organization, and they're already beginning to see actionable steps that we're taking to ensure that we attain the vision and the acceleration and the growth that we're able to achieve by the mechanisms that we have put in place. So far the feedback from the staff has been very positive, and that has also impacted the level of progress that we have made in attaining our goals. Okay, thank you very much. In leading the organization to success, like I said, we deployed very effective strategies that would ensure that we attain a goal. And I'm sure you know that the strategy is a plan, a successful plan that would ensure that you turn your goals and your objectives to reality. So the strategies that we have put in place, actionable strategies in place, is ensuring that we convert our goals and our objectives to reality. And so the strategies, like I mentioned, are across the departments and also across the organization, which would ensure that we attain our vision, our short-term vision, and our long-term vision. You must also know that the NDPHC is a generation company, and as a GenCo, we are primarily judged by our generation outputs. So we have effective strategy in place to ensure that we ramp up our generation. Prior to my leadership, let me also mention very humbly that prior to my leadership, our average daily dispatch was below 500 megawatts. But as we speak, our average daily dispatch is usually above 800 megawatts, which means that we have improved very significantly our generation outputs to meet the market demands. And so this is possible, like I said, because we have a winning strategy. And one of the strategies would be in the generation directorate is that we now have a robust recovery plan for our power plants. We also very proactively have a procurement planning plan to ensure that we do preventive maintenance across our power plants. And that way we have been able to build sustainability and efficiency across our power plants. The power plants are generally measured by the availability factor. Across each of the power plants, we have improved our availability factor very significantly, and that is because we have an effective recovery plan and restoration plan in place. So we have 10 generation plants, 7 are commercially operational and 3 are still work in progress. So our commercially operational plants are the Calabar power plant, which is a 575 megawatts power plant. Then we also have the Adighije power plant, which is undergoing upgrades from open cycle to combined cycle, which is 475 megawatts, 450 megawatts installed capacity. Then we also have the Hover power plant as well, which is in Edo State, which is a 450 megawatt capacity plant as well. We have the Sapele power plant, another 450 megawatt plant. We have the Omotosho power plant, which is another 450 megawatt plant. And then we have the Olorunshogo power plant in Ogun State, which is also 675 megawatts. Now, these are the commercially operational power plants, while the Egbema and Omoku power plants are still work in progress at different stages of completion. And then we have the Gbarain power plant, which is our smallest power plant because it has 2 generating units, which is 275 megawatts. Okay, let me also mention, just to take you back historically, the concept of the NIPP. The NIPP was actually developed in 2 phases. So the NIPP phase 1, which is relying on the fossil fuels for generation, which is why we established 10 power plants, which are gas-fired power plants. So that's the NIPP phase 1. Now, the NIPP phase 2 was actually in line with the energy transition plan. Now, the NIPP phase 1, the proceeds from the sale of the power plants in the NIPP phase 1 are supposed to be used to start the NIPP phase 2, which is relying on renewable energy in the sense that, the hydro power plants or solar power plants or wind power plants. So yes, from inception, we had always factored in that transition from NIPP phase 1 to NIPP phase 2. So definitely there are plans in place to ensure that we start the NIPP phase 2 soon. We're looking to collaborate with investors to ensure that we're able to start the NIPP phase 2 even before we can conclude the privatization of NIPP phase 1. So yes, we are currently aligned with Mr. President's energy transition plan in ensuring that we can quickly begin to make investments to ensure that, we can create plants with renewable energy sources, which will be cheaper and more efficient for us as a company and as a nation. The power sector it has been evolving and it will continue to evolve. But I would say that with the passing of the Electricity Act 2023, it's a game changer for the sector. Because it's an advancement on the Electricity and Power Sector Reform Act of 2005, and it has developed very significantly, to a large extent, because what it aims to achieve is a decentralization of the power sector, and that will now liberate each of the subsectors, the generation, the transmission, and the distribution subsectors. So essentially opening up the NESI, the electricity market for us. And it is actually to our advantage because now the industry is transitioning to bilateral transactions, so we can trade bilaterally, with off-takers, we can collaborate, with TCN, and that is opening market opportunities for us. And so the Electricity Act is a game changer for the sector, and I believe that we will begin to make significant improvements because the sector will now be more enticing and attractive for investors to begin to draw capital to enhance our distributed access to electricity as a nation. And we know that no nation can thrive when the businesses and the people are not thriving, and the businesses and the people cannot thrive when there is no access to quality, affordable electricity. Is doable, is doable, and I dare say that this government, has shown keenness, because even with the passing of the successful implementation of the act, it has shown that Mr. President he has the will, to make a difference, and some bold moves have been made in that regard. I will tell you that the greatest challenge of the industry is the liquidity crisis, and the liquidity crisis arose from several factors. One of which is the fact that the electricity that we consume, majority of Nigerians consume, is not cost reflective. And so what that means is that a huge subsidy burden is on the government to provide. And that also now makes us, as the generation companies, unable to recoup the costs that we put in generating electricity, because only a percentage of our invoices are settled. And that is because on the downstream market side, they also are unable to recover all the costs of the energy that they sell to their customers. So certain initiatives, for instance, like the Presidential Metering Initiative, will bridge some of these gaps to enhance collection rates, to enhance billing rates, to be able to ensure that the DISCO settlement or DISCO remittances improve. And you must understand that is a chain reaction. When the DISCO remittances improve, then our remittances or our settlement on our invoices also improve. So with the introduction of the band system, for instance, as you all know, we introduced the cost reflective tariff on the band A, and I do know that there are also plans to be able to implement across other bands, amongst other plans that would the Mr. President is putting in place, or interventions or policies or programs that would ensure that we ramp up the liquidity in the sector. If liquidity is ramped up and our cash flow improves, then we can also improve quality of service and the grade of service. But Nigerians need to understand that the quality of service is tied to our ability to have the cash flow to sustain premium services.